That yuppie dog is so yuppie. To see you later. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Cruising Oliver Chanel, and welcome to my August wrap up. So I had a great reading month this month. I was off work, so I had loads of free time for reading, and I'm really happy that I wanted to spend that time reading. So I've read 13 books, 2 of which were audiobooks and then an extra one which I DNF'd. So I still managed to move 12, I think, off my physical TBR, which is really good going. Because for reference, I read on, well, my average for this year so far is 4 books a month. So 13 is fantastic. And I've got this big stack here. Okay, that was awkward, but there we are. So the month started off absolutely great with The Heart Principle by Helen Hoang. I loved this book. I just loved it. I'm really fussy when it comes to romances, but this ticks all the boxes. It's my first ever 5-star romance, which says a lot. I just thought it was so good. The neurodiversity rep in all of her books is amazing. So this is the 3rd one in the Kiss Quotient trilogy, all of which have fantastic neurodiversity rep. And they're just so good. So I loved this book, as you can tell. I will say it's a lot heavier than the other 2 books. I mean, they all deal with stuff, but this one deals a lot with grief and other things. So I would check the trigger warnings for it, but if you're okay with all of those things, then this book is so good. It's my favourite romance I've ever read. And Helen Hoang will now be an auto-buy author for me. That yuppie dog is so yuppie. I feel like it might be a little while before she does another release, because the author's note of this made me cry. That's how good it was. Because I was feeling emotional from the end of the book, then I read the author's note and I was just like, oh. So she was saying that the first 2 in the trilogy are written in 3rd person, but this one she wrote in 1st person because it felt so much truer to herself, and like she was kind of writing about her own experiences. It's not a memoir, it's not a true story, but I think a lot of it is inspired. I think she sees a lot of herself in Anna, the main character. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Really, really enjoyed this one. Okay, and then the next book was a bit of a flop, which was 100 Other Girls by Iman Hariri Kia. I actually DNF'd this, which made me really sad because I had a couple of interactions with the author on Instagram, and she was so nice and just genuinely seemed so happy and grateful that people wanted to read her book, but I just couldn't. I'm not sure where we got to. I think I might have got quite far, you know. I got like 175 pages in, but I just couldn't. And I just felt that I was going to move into a slump if I kept going, trying to slug my way through it, because I just wasn't enjoying it and I wasn't into it. It was very like pop culture, which is not really my thing. And I didn't like any of the characters. I wanted to say to Noura, the main character, like, just stop letting people treat you like that, because she was just letting people walk all over her in the name of getting a good job, and I just don't think it's worth that. And then Saffron was a great character. I did really like Saffron. The manager, Loretta, oh my god, what an awful human being. And then there was Layla, who is Noura's sister, who I actually liked at the start, and then one of the bits that got me like, no, this is the end, they were like having an argument, and she went, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, say you don't want to hang out with me anymore, say it. And I was like, that's so dramatic and immature. So that was just a no for me. So Unfortunately, that was a DNF. What did I read next? So next I read Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I love Alice Oseman. So this was only my second novel by her, but I just loved it. The first one I read was Loveless earlier this year, which I gave 5 stars. This I gave 4.5, so it wasn't quite up there, but I still loved it. So it's about what's her name? Frances, who is obsessed with this anonymous podcast or like radio program that someone's been making for the past 2 years. No one knows who it is, and she makes like fan art for it because she just loves it so much. Like, she's a bit of a loner, she doesn't really have any true friends, but then she meets Aled, who quickly becomes a very good friend, but then it's all like a roller coaster. A lot goes on. I don't really know. Look, I'm gonna be honest, after I finish reading a book, I don't remember what it was about, but doesn't mean I didn't love it. So I think one of the things that I really love about Alice Oseman books is they're YA, but they are so accurately representative of modern day teenagers. Like, she writes the texts, and when older people, even if they're like 30, I feel like now, write young people text in, they do like you are, see you later, and like we just don't do that anymore. But what Alice Oseman does is she captures the fact that different people text in different ways. Everyone has a different texting style. So like when I'm texting my friends, I don't know, but some people write everything out in full with really good grammar and whatever. Other people have everything lowercase. Some people do a U and then maybe an R, but like I don't feel like anybody does see you later anymore unless it's like ironic, and she gets that. So that's something, like, I think texts in a book can really make or break it, but for Alice Oseman, they make it. Yeah, 4.5 stars. Just bloody loved this book. This is going great. Next I read The Maid by Nita Prose. I thought this was like a thriller, which I think is because it was marketed that way. I feel like that's what the like blurb, and yeah, a murder mystery with a tremendous heart. I don't know. This was not a thriller to me. It just wasn't. To me, this was a sad story about a misunderstood woman with ASD, basically, and the way that her colleagues mistreated her and misunderstood her and were just nasty to her for no reason, just because they didn't understand her. So that's what this was to me. And then she gets caught up because of her kind of struggles with understanding social cues and such like that. She gets caught up in a very bad situation, but I don't think this is a spoiler. I don't know. Basically, that all goes on, and then by the end of the book, she's made some strong relationships, and it's then a nice story of her overcoming a problem that she was projected into without even realising. So I gave this 3.75 stars. It was a nice story, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't what I thought it could be. We are truly into the 3.75 section of the month here. So then I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a sapphic romance, and it was a nice story. It was really nice, but things irritated me, and the main thing was the other woman. How many times, right? I don't know, this many pages counted, and it was like 11 times. And it just irritated me so much because it took me out of the story, because I was like, oh, there it goes again, like just repeating the same phrase over and over again. So instead of saying Delilah's heart rate raised and she could tell that Claire's had too, it would say like Delilah's heart rate raised and she could tell the other woman's had too. But it said that sentence after sentence after sentence, sometimes like 2 or 3 times in one page, and it was just too much, and that ruined the story for me. And also, all of these characters desperately need a therapist, so I hope that they get one. But I might read the second one, Astrid's story, might do. But, you know, it was nice. And is this the first lesbian romance I read? Might be. But yeah, it was just a shame with that one phrase coming up so frequently. It just really took it away from the story for me. 3.75. The next 3.75, The Phone Box at the Edge of the World by Laura Imai Messina, which is translated from Italian by Lucy Brand. Yeah, again, this was really nice. So this is actually inspired by a true story about a phone box in Japan called the Wind Phone, or that's what it's known as locally, where people go to talk to their dead loved ones. So I think the belief is, at least my understanding, was that people believe their message could get like taken through the wind to their loved ones. So it was really nice, but I didn't absolutely love it. I loved that the chapters was short and really nice, and I liked the way they were interspersed with, like, I don't know how to describe it. It was like the story, and then it mentioned something in the story, like she only packed 5 things in her bag that day, blah, blah, blah. And then the next chapter will just be called the 5 things that Yui packed in her bag that day. And it'll just list them. And I really liked that. Like it was nice, but I just didn't feel like that ultimate connection to the story or the characters. So that was another 3.75. Then I moved on to my poll winner for the month, which was Before She Knew Him by Peter Swanson. Again, 3.75. Like, it was fine. It was a bit spooky. I kind of predicted the like big twist, but just enough that I was like, oh, imagine if that happened. But then it did happen. But something that really ruined this for me was midway through the book, one of the characters, Dr. Shaheen. I think it was Shaheen, but then randomly they got called Detective Sheehan instead of Shaheen. And that just irritates me so much. Like, people get paid to proofread and edit these and they're just not doing it. And I hate that. And also on the back, it says that he's a college professor, but in the book it's very clear that he is a high school history teacher. And it's just things like that, like there's no communication between the team putting the book together. Why do you think people should be spending their money on their book if you're not doing your work? And that really irritates me. So sorry if that was a bit dramatic, but that's my hot take. Then I read My Mess is a Bit of a Life by Georgia Pritchett, which I really enjoyed. It was like her is a memoir about her experience of living with anxiety, and just kind of talking about her life. I was just reading through, I was like, yeah, nice. Then I got to the chapter surprises, cried my eyes out, because I just know how special that moment would have been. If you read it, then hopefully you know which part I mean. But, ripped my heart out. In a good way. It was so good. But yeah, it was kind of, even the bits that I haven't experienced, her whole, like, personality, like her as a person, was just really relatable. So I really enjoyed this and gave it 4 stars. Ooh, also, on the plane home from my holiday, I listened to the audiobook of Empress and Anaya by Candice Carty-Williams, which was really nice. It's only about 2 hours long. It's a YA short story or novella, I don't know. Gave that 4 stars, really liked it. And then the bank holiday double points in Waterstones got me, and I bought 6 books. 4 of which were all of the Heartstoppers. So I read volumes 1 and 2. I read volume 1 in one sitting, about 40 minutes. And then pretty much immediately after, I read volume 2 in almost one sitting. I don't think I would have enjoyed them as much if I hadn't watched season 1, but I was just like grinning, whatever. They're just nice, you know, they're just nice. So I gave them 4 stars each. Oh my god, that's not true though, I read this first. Whoops. Okay, before that I read We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer, which was my prompt for this month. Well, the prompt was random generator and actually stick to it. So after I finished My Mess is a Bit of a Life, I went on I went on random number generator and got 46, which was We Are the Weather. Let's have a drink. Talking a bit fast there. So going into this, I knew it was a bit about like how our diet and what we eat impacts the environment, which he doesn't actually talk about that until 63 pages in, or 64 even, and that annoyed me because, or I just found it frustrating because I was like, get to the point, I know what you want to talk about, so why aren't you? But he does acknowledge that once he gets to that point. And he's basically saying that as soon as you start talking about food and people's eating habits, they get defensive and they don't want to know anymore. So that made sense. And a lot of what he said, well, it really resonated with me actually, because he was like acknowledging the fact that he claims he's someone who cares about the environment and he genuinely believes that he is that person. But then when he actually thinks about it, he's like, well, what am I doing at all to stop, like, to prevent the crisis? Which is kind of how I feel. And I've gone back and forth before, like feeling guilty because I know that I should go vegan, but I won't do it because it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, which is pathetic and embarrassing. So as of tomorrow, the 1st of September, I declare myself a vegetarian. However, I am trying to like make switches between animal products and plant-based products where I can, like making little changes. And one of the really interesting things that he said was, if someone is trapped under a car and then someone gets the like hysterical strength to manage to lift this heavy car, people see that person as a hero. But actually, if all the other people on the road hadn't pulled over a couple of feet for an ambulance to get past, then there would have been no point in the guy lifting the car off anyway, because the ambulance couldn't have got to them. So actually, although we think we're small, we can't do anything, we're so important. And I don't know, I've worded that really badly, but that made me think like, yeah, you're right, I can do more than what I'm doing. And even if I'm only doing something small, it helps. So I'm really going to try and work on it. If you kind of feel like that too, then I would really recommend this. And I think sometimes they can be a bit like preachy, but this one wasn't, because he was fully saying like, it's hard to do because the reality of the climate crisis just doesn't feel like a reality. It feels so far away that we can't believe in it, even if no matter how hard we try. So that was a really good read. That was a 4.25 for me. Yeah, and here's to eating more plant-based meals. Then I read The Heartstoppers, and then I was just looking through my shelf and I was like, what shall I read next? I don't know. And I randomly picked out Things My Mother Told Me by Tanya Atapatu, which I thought was going to be like maybe a rom-com. Like I thought it was going to be pretty light-hearted, but it wasn't. It was quite heavy actually. But it was good. I think I gave it 3.75 stars. It had 4-star potential, but the chapters were just so long, like 30, 40, sometimes even 50 pages. And that was just too long for me, and that puts me off. Even though, like, I read the whole thing really quick. I've read it in the past 3 days, which is very quick for me. But that just puts me off. And yeah, but I did really enjoy it. It explores a lot about, like, basically her partner of 10 years cheats on her and has been cheating on her for a year, and she finds out, and that's how the book opens. But rather than just being like her moving on, it's about her like kind of finding herself again, figuring out who she is and what she wants. So it's really just a story about Anjali, not about Anjali's love life, which obviously is a big part of it, but it's about her and who she is inside, and kind of repairing past relationships with her family. And yeah, it was just really nice, but it just wasn't anything special for me. So then yeah, 3.75. that seems to be the theme of the month. Oh, also, I read or have been reading for months now the audiobook of Short Stories in German for Beginners by Ollie Richards and Alex Rawlings, narrated by Guido Szymanski, and that was so dull. I gave that 2 stars. I wanted to DNF it, but I was being really stubborn because I want my story graph, languages graph, to be more interesting. But yeah, that was not it for me. And the thing is, I don't know enough of the language to be able to have it on the background and then pick up what's going on. I have to be concentrating, but the narrator's voice was just so dull that I could not concentrate. So I was picking up words and phrases here and there, but on the whole, I got no idea what they were saying. So I gave it 2 stars. I can't give it 1 because I actually don't know what it was about, so that would be harsh. But yeah, that was not it for me. So that was my August wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next month, perhaps.